President Joe Biden is seeking $80 billion to fund the IRS, so the IRS can actually do what it's supposed to do: audit people who are refusing to pay their taxes. Now, the IRS has been defunded so significantly that the agency is unable to do audits of high earners. So most of their focus has been on low earners, people who are usually not engaging in any type of tax dodging. And the focus on that, of course, doesn't increase the revenue for the federal government significantly. However, if we fund the IRS, as Biden is proposing here, well, then it would have the resources necessary to focus on the real tax dodgers, and that is important. So the administration estimates that giving the IRS an additional $80 billion over a decade could raise at least $700 billion in the new tax revenue, for a net gain of at least $700 billion. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Now, just to tell you how severe this problem is, this month, the head of the IRS told a Senate committee that the agency lacked the resources to catch these tax cheats, costing the government as much as $1 trillion a year. This isn't even, I mean, it lacks controversy, and to be quite honest with you guys, on its face, this story is incredibly boring and should not lead to any type of debate. Really, these are people who are, based on this ridiculous tax code that favors the rich, they're still not paying the taxes that they're supposed to pay. So no one should disagree with this proposal, but we'll see what happens. Woz.
It almost makes you wonder why we wouldn't spend even more on the IRS when you consider the ROI on this. Like, you're telling me I get my money back tenfold by investing in this? Like, any person who's ever done any type of business or investments would look at that type of return and say, hold on, can I dump all of my money into this? Like, the idea that people are skating on taxes to a tune of 1 trillion, and Biden is recommending something that'll get 80 billion of the 1 trillion back, which is effectively 8% of that back. Like, that there would be any argument against this is laughable. And of course, and we know why richer people aren't getting taxed the same way, and it's because their tax returns tend to be they're more work intensive for the IRS, right? Like, the average person who works, just a regular job, does the W-2, that's quick, that's easy, wham bam, thank you ma'am, thank you for coming, right? But for their tax returns, it's a little bit more intricate and complicated, and there's more checking and stuff to do. And so, they tend to put those off when they lack the resources. So of course, this idea that we wouldn't invest resources in getting money back. Like, this isn't like, tax cuts for the rich where it's theoretical that they're gonna make it rain on us if we shake our little fifis for them as workers in the economy and they think we're sexy enough to pay us, right? Like, that idea has been debunked. It's a stupid one, yet they still peddle it. This is just foolproof. The more you invest in the IRS, the more tax revenue we get back to fund stuff like infrastructure and healthcare and education. This is just stupid, quite frankly.
You know what's amazing? An $80 billion increase for the IRS budget would increase its resources by 2/3. Like, it blows my mind how much that funding has an impact on the agency. And I should also note that between 2010 and 2018, the agency's budget was decreased by a whopping 20%. So the Trump administration really put that on overdrive. And yes, the $80 billion in proposed funding would be an increase of 2/3 over the agency's entire funding levels for the past decade. So this is a good proposal. which means that even though it should be non-controversial, it will somehow be a big debate in Congress. We'll see how it plays out. But Biden will also propose new disclosure requirements for people who own businesses that are not organized as corporations, and for other wealthy people who could be hiding income from the government. Now, making sure that everyone pays their fair share is important because Biden does want to propose policies that are, at least rhetoric-wise and on its face, pretty bold policies. For instance, pretty soon he's going to propose his American Families Plan, and that's going to require even more government spending. In order to make the case for that, he needs to show how he's gonna pay for it. At least that's the standard that he's set for himself. And so the American Families Plan is expected to cost at least $1.5 trillion and will include universal pre-kindergarten, a federal paid leave program, efforts to make childcare more affordable, free community college for all, and tax credits meant to fight poverty. That sounds pretty damn good. And so in the very least, what we can do is ensure that people who are dodging the taxes that they're supposed to pay based on our current tax code end up having to pay it because the IRS has forced them to. Now, the administration, by the way, also aims to pay for the plan by raising the top marginal income tax rate for wealthy Americans to 39.6% from the current 27%, and raising capital gains taxes for those who earn more than $1 million a year. So he wasn't lying when he said that his tax plan will primarily focus on the highest earners. That is what he's doing here. I think it makes all the sense in the world. Fund the IRS to make sure people are unable to dodge paying their taxes. Increase taxes on those who have been able to enjoy this system that has been rigged in their favor. And do what's necessary to ensure that Americans can live healthy, prosperous lives. That is something that's been, deteriorating in this country, certainly since the 1970s. And Biden, at least with his proposal, seems to want to reverse that. I'll believe him once I see him actually fighting on behalf of these policies, not just proposing it. But in terms of where his focus is on tax increases, this does seem to make a lot of sense.
What's funny about this as well, and is that, the Biden camp obviously feels like they have to do some type of PR push for funding the IRS, because the other side has so thoroughly over decades sort of denigrated the IRS, demonized the IRS, and messed up their Q rating amongst the public, specifically amongst their base. And that made me think, wouldn't it be nice if the Dems and the establishment on our side found a way to demonize stuff like Halliburton or Raytheon, so that every time they tried to increase funding for these private military contractors, we could go out and just conjure up images of a boogeyman private military industrial industry that could affect their funding and ruin everything? But that's just wishful thinking.
That's just wishful thinking, I know. And there's never a debate or a discussion about, we're gonna increase the already bloated defense budget. How are we gonna pay for that? No one ever asked that question, no one. And I'm talking about people in positions of power. Obviously, constituents ask that question, viewers of this show ask that question, we ask that question. But when it comes to members of Congress or the corporate media, the treatment that a proposal like Medicare for All got is not the same treatment that a proposed increase in the defense budget would get. And that shows you where our priorities really are.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.